He is the executive producer of Eurovision 2020 and has become executive producer of Europe Shine a Light, I believe. It's Sietse Bakker. Hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Oh, really good. It's nice to see you, albeit in these strange circumstances.
Likewise.
I just want to start off with a big congratulations, actually, because Eurovision 2020, the slogan, Open Up, the artwork, everything was so good. And it got such a positive response from all sorts of people. How did you feel about all the reaction, the positive reaction that was coming in for your work?
Oh gosh, I mean, knowing the Eurovision fans for a long time, I know they can be honest and critical as well at times, and to read all that positive feedback and an occasional disappointment, which is part of the game, I guess. That was really heartwarming. We appreciate the honesty and the positive comments sort of encouraged us to keep doing our jobs until that changed on the 18th of March.
There was so much cohesion. When I think of the Netherlands, I think of progressive values, tolerance, and all of your, slogan, logo, theme, art touched on that, but without beating you over the head. Was it hard to get that balance?
Well, it certainly took time to sort of think about it. One of the things that we had on the radar from the very start is that this year we celebrate, although under slightly different circumstances, 75 years after the Second World War. So freedom is a really important theme this year, but we didn't sort of want to slap it into people's face because what is freedom for us may be different in other countries. So we were looking for a theme that sort of reflected freedom and that gave people the freedom to add things to it. Open up to love, open up your heart, open up to honesty, open up to music. It gave a lot of freedom to work with, and a lot of people did, so that was really great to see.
And before we come to coronavirus, I'm just curious, what was the most challenging aspect of the original show? Was there something you were nervous about revealing more than something else?
Well, what is always tough is that these three shows are three big puzzles, and most of the pieces of that puzzle you have almost no influence on. It's the songs, it's the artists that are being chosen that you just cannot control. What you can control is sort of you can guide them by working on camera scripts and LED content and pyro and all the things that for which we love the Eurovision Song Contest. But those are the pieces you have little to no control over. Then there are the opening acts, the interval acts, the stage, all these things that you have creative freedom on. And that entire puzzle has to fit, and you have little time to make that puzzle work. And sadly, we'll never really know what that puzzle would have looked like with those pieces.
Is there any chance that for the next edition of Eurovision, some of the pieces may carry over, or will you start fresh?
One of the first things we thought when the song contest was canceled was how can we somehow still celebrate what the Eurovision Song Contest is all about on the 16th of May, and I'm sure we'll get to talk about that later. And at the same time, we started thinking, how can we keep the song contest in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, for 2021? And I think it was Jan Ola Sand who said it in an interview a couple of weeks ago. He said, starting up a song contest after a country wins, that's one thing. But wrapping one up before it happens, that's even more challenging. So we've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks looking into what it takes to move it to next year. We haven't quite completed our homework yet, but we hope to be able to say something about that sometime very soon.
And so when in the process of your planning for Eurovision 2020, did you realize this pandemic is posing a big threat and things may not work out?
Good question. I think it was in the end of January, just a few days before the allocation draw, actually, when we started discussing it here in the team and with the city of Rotterdam. And I think it was over WhatsApp, a message to them saying, "Oh, there is this epidemic going on in Asia, and if that spreads, that could be a thing for us. And let's hope that it's going away, or that if it reaches us, it's happening after May, God forbids." But it all happened so much faster than we anticipated, and we were thinking about it, but reality caught up much quicker. Not only with us, I think with everyone in Europe, than we could foresee.
And now people understand, I'm pretty sure, that this had to be canceled. There's not so much controversy about that. But at the time, obviously, the viewpoint is different. Were you guys going back and forth, or how stressful was it to reach the final decision?
It was, it was stressful times because on one hand, you have to keep going. The machine has to keep running. You have to prepare until that decision is taken. And that was ultimately a decision that the EBU, as sort of owner of the song contest, would have to take. But it was tough also for the team to sort of work on trying to make a great song contest, and at the same time having this looming risk of cancellation, which started to become clear. I think it was a few days after the heads of delegation meeting when it sort of really hit us, like, gosh, this could actually be the first time ever that the song contest would be canceled, which is, I mean, you and I know that it's unprecedented, and I think if you search well, you can find interviews with me where I say, Eurovision happens no matter what, and oh boy, couldn't be more wrong. No one is immune to this pandemic, neither is the song contest.
And we, of course, feel for all of the broadcasters, but for the Dutch broadcaster and your team in particular, having waited for so long for this to happen, then putting on what was going to be very clearly one of the best shows ever, what was it like for you personally when it was final?
First you are executive producer, which is one thing. I think it's one of the best jobs in the world, having the honor of producing these shows and this event, and work with the best people in the country to make it happen. Suddenly you're a crisis manager, and you have to deal with all the complexities, first of sort of trying to find ways to keep the song contest going despite a pandemic coming over. Suddenly you're managing the first ever cancellation of the song contest, which means dealing with a team of 70 to 80 people, everyone sad, disappointed, dealing with suppliers, dealing with the city of Rotterdam, who put a lot of effort into the event. And of course, we felt sort of little time to be sad on our own behalf. We were especially sad for all those artists that prepared for this, that filed all their ideas with us. They were going to have the probably most important 3 minutes of their lives, and that was suddenly not happening. So we mainly feel sad on their behalf, and that's why we thought of a way with the EBU to still honor them on the 16th of May.
Yes, and just like Rotterdam, you picked yourself up and you threw yourself into Eurovision, Europe Shine a Light. How did you come up with this concept, and I guess what's the goal of it ultimately?
Yeah, I think it was within 48 hours that we thought, we have to pick ourselves up and keep going and try to make something out of it, despite the challenging circumstances. So it was 2 days after the cancellation that we sat down with the board here and with some key members of the team to say, what can we do given the circumstances and given the sort of the huge unknown? Because you may remember at the time, things were happening so quickly. No one knew what next week would bring. and we were still 7 weeks out. So we had to think of what can we do given the circumstances. One thing for us was key, and that's that we honored the 41 artists and give them a spotlight that they can still showcase themselves to the European audience. The second thing we thought was important was that we somehow create a sense of togetherness in this crisis. You know, if you look at the news over the last months, we've been talking a lot about each other. We've been talking about, how bad the situation is in Italy, all the challenges in Spain. We've been talking about the UK Prime Minister who ended up in hospital. All these stories, we talked about each other. And we thought maybe we should talk with each other, reach out to one another, talk about what's going on in your country, how this affected you, but also sort of how did it inspire you to be creative, and how did it inspire musicians to come up with new material. And I think today we teased with Netta, who created something really special for the 16th of May. So consider these are sort of interval acts that we use to spice up the show. And I think it's still going to be very special. It's not the song contest, but it's still the Eurovision feeling.
And removing the competitive aspect's quite important. I guess, from your perspective, why was that important?
Well, first of all, if you do a competition, it has to be a fair competition. And a lot of time and effort is being put into that every year to make sure you have a level playing field for all the acts. Of course, we thought of all the ideas that passed by on Twitter, people suggesting we should connect to every country, to a studio, and let the artists perform there, that we should compare music videos or national selection performances. But it all didn't feel like it was going to be a fair competition. Another challenge was that, even if we had invited all the broadcasters to just prepare a studio and let your artist sing from there, 7 weeks ago, no one knew if it would even be possible to gather groups of people in studios around Europe. So we didn't want to put that burden on the other 40 participating broadcasts. So all these ideas came to the table, and in good discussions with EBU, the reference group, we came to this: honor the artist, no competition, and that's what ultimately became Eurovision Shine a Light.
And British fans are, of course, thrilled that the title of the show honors, in a way, Katrina and the Waves and their song Love Shine a Light. Was it the obvious choice for you, or were you guys exploring many different options for the feature song, I guess?
Actually, and I don't think I've told this to anyone before, but the idea to do something with Love Shine a Light came before the concept of the show, and then we sort of put one on one together, and we thought, wouldn't it be a good title for this show? The song it sort of fits the moment. It's uplifting, but not that extravagant. It's warm-hearted. It's something you can sing together. It's a great song, and it's one of the Eurovision evergreens, and we thought it would fit this show. Arcade is a great song, but it wouldn't have worked as a title for a TV program on the 16th of May. So that's why we ultimately decided upon this title.
And have you been pleased with the reception from the member broadcasters across Europe?
Not in my wildest dreams. I imagined that all participating broadcasters would sign up to show it, almost all of them live. I was sort of thinking, if 25 would take it, I would be really pleased. But to have all of them sign up and have Montenegro and Kosovo and Kazakhstan come on board as well, that was really encouraging for our team, and just, I think, made us work twice as hard, because all of Europe and beyond is going to be watching.
And obviously with Eurovision, you learn a lot about the host country, and a lot of us have learned about your royal family this year. And you actually had a conversation, I believe, with the king?
Yeah, it was a big honor. I think it was 2 weeks ago. His Majesty decided to give us a call, and he asked about the cancellation and how it affected us, and how it affected the people on the team. He asked what our plans were for the 16th of May, and just expressed his sympathy and encouragement, and I think he was very proud of the fact that we still do something in just in 6-7 weeks time, and create a show on the 16th of May. So yeah, that was a great encouragement. I think that he used all day to call with all sorts of organizations that were affected by this crisis. And no, there was a fun one to tick off from my bucket list.
And I guess just two questions to finish about the future. The first being, recently the Minister of Health in the Netherlands said, no vaccine, no mass events, which is a very understandable position. How does this impact your thinking for next year's contest?
Yeah, it's important to add a bit of nuance to that. The remark came from I think a 48-page letter to Parliament, where these were just 2 sentences, but it definitely shook up the event industry here in the Netherlands. For us, it was a bit of a shocker to read. At the same time, later that day, he gave some context to that remark, and he basically said, things may be possible next year, but it all depends on the circumstances. And the most sort of logical course of action would be they find a vaccine, everyone gets vaccinated, and next year is business as usual. Right now, that's just impossible to say. But obviously, in our homework for 21, we have to think of what this means for the song contest and beyond, because we all hope this crisis is over by next year May, but it could last shorter, it could last longer, and then and we have to be prepared. This year, the cancellation came as a shock surprise. For next year, I think we all, not only as host broadcaster, but also as participating broadcasters, EBU, contestants, and the fans, we have to be prepared for whatever may come, and we have time to do that.
And finally, how do you think the events of this year will impact the future of Eurovision? My assumption is Eurovision will continue to thrive, but I'm curious what you think.
Sure, I fully agree with Jon Alassane, who said Eurovision will be back stronger than ever, and I think with the power of public broadcasters behind it, that will definitely be the case. I know for a fact, we've seen it over the last few weeks, the fans keep the flame burning. There have been some great initiatives from you guys, from on Twitter with Eurovision Again, all the initiatives from the EBU, the fan community. Everyone has shown their best when it comes to creativity, and I think some of these ideas could well be there to stay. I mean, the home concerts were fantastic. Those artists really went the extra mile to contribute to it, and who knows, that could be one to stay.
Sietse Bakker, executive producer of the Eurovision Song Contest 2020. Thank you so much again for everything you've done, not just this year, but over the many years you've been involved with the shows. We were really looking forward to seeing your vision, but we'll see one this weekend with Europe Shine a Light.
Thank you. Hang in there and stay healthy.